Ballerina is the newest entry in the John Wick franchise. I haven't seen the Continental TV show. My girlfriend and I watched all of the film. I'm a little bit more mixed on John Wick 3 rather than 4, even though I think 4 maybe has the best action. I could be wrong. I don't know. In my defense, I think that John Wick 2 has maybe the least appetizing action scenes, mainly with Common. I did not care for that fight scene. The absence of music didn't enhance anything. It kind of made it worse, which is kind of sad. The John Wick films are fine. I have seen better action movies, obviously. Just so we're clear. Takedowns are fine. That's primarily what John Wick does. I could be wrong, but from what I remember watching, he doesn't really throw a lot of punches or kicks. He mainly just does takedowns, and it's a lot of gunplay. It reminded me a lot of Hit Girl from the Kick-Ass series. I'm not a big fan of the whole gunplay thing. The Matrix was not very interesting in that regard for me. It was the hand-to-hand. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here really quick and tell you guys I am super excited for this movie, and I will have a reaction as soon as I'm back home later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I saw Ballerina last night with my girlfriend, and it's safe to say that this was a fine movie. It wasn't amazing because I had some issues with the story, as well as technically 3 characters. It was really 2 that I just didn't care about. Let's see, where to really begin with this? I guess Ana de Armas was probably the best thing about this film. I thought that she was the best part in No Time to Die. I liked her in Knock Knock for obvious reasons. I haven't seen her much in other project. Knives Out I haven't seen. I'd have to go back and look at her IMDb. She's a really talented actress, and I'm happy that she's really showing her versatility in terms of what she can do for the genre of action, and I don't think she's been in a horror movie. It is kind of funny though how Daisy Ridley tried to break into the action star role. I guess Viola Davis did it again because she did Woman King a few years back. Didn't see it, and I guess both of these new movies didn't do very well. But I like Ballerina. Gabriel Byrne played the main antagonist. He was the Chancellor. He was given probably the worst dialogue I've ever heard in an action movie. I didn't realize his character was named the Chancellor. I don't know if this was intentional, but he literally has a line saying, "Your anger will make you stronger." I said Palpatine out loud, and then someone called him the Chancellor, and then I remembered, oh my god, that's who he is? That's his character's name? So I was a little taken out of the movie when that happened. The camera work was great, although finding a favorite action scene in that movie, I don't know. I'd have to maybe think about it or rewatch clips on YouTube when they're available, but the action I thought was great. What I thought the movie could have done better was make me care about Norman Reedus' character, as well as his daughter. I think her name was Ella, as well as a different character who I'm not going to, I guess, spoil, because I don't like spoiling things. And also, I didn't feel like it was earned and deserved. Further down the end of Act 2, also, John Wick is in this movie, which isn't a spoiler because he's in the trailers and all the marketing. I was worried that it was going to go a certain way, especially with his scenes. Well, first off, speaking of John Wick, there's a scene that I thought was going to completely parallel John Wick 2, where guns are introduced and Eve's character would have to kind of gear up. Another scene involving flashing lights that, thank God, it wasn't bad. Strobe lights are something I hate. I hate strobe lights. But this movie was fine. I'd recommend the movie if you're a fan of the John Wick franchise. I mean, it's under 2.5 hours, which is pretty refreshing since John Wick 4 was, I think, over 3 hours, maybe? I don't remember. It's been a couple of years since I looked at the runtime. Anyway, behind me is a certain movie that I'm going to watch pretty soon as my pizza is ready. I love pizza, so we'll see what happens. This will probably be like a double feature review thing, just because that was my review of Ballerina. Soon will be my review of Predator, Killer of Killers. Well, let me read my notes first off so I can somewhat tell you things. All right. The pros of this movie. The movie is barely feature length at 1 hour, 19 minutes. The best story is The Sword, which takes place in 1609 Japan. The action in that story was the best in the movie, in my opinion, and there's barely any dialogue spoken, which I felt kind of made it a lot better than it probably had any reason to be. Now to the cons. The shield and the bullet aren't nearly as interesting. The shield has terrible action. The frames in general for that story don't have any impact weapon-wise. For me, it was hard to care for any of the characters. The bullet has an unlikable lead, Torres. barely any fighting experience, and felt like a Gary Stu, which apparently is the opposite of a Mary Sue, and I didn't know it was Gary Stu. I thought it was something different. This all leads to a rushed and boring climax with a decision from a character I found dumb and ultimately unnecessary. If you're a fan of the franchise, you'll like this, but it was a bit underdeveloped to me. Badlands comes out in November by the same director, Dan Trachtenberg. Hopefully it does better. Those are my notes for the movie. This movie is split up into parts. Obviously, The Shield is first, taking place in Ursa is the main character in the first story, followed by her son Anders. I thought she was calling him Honors, but it was Anders, and I guess I just didn't pay attention to that. I felt the action was probably the weakest because there's one notable scene where they're all charging forward to kill a bunch of people, and Ursa has her two broken shield, and it just looked kind of clunky, and it was really hard to tell what was happening in that movie, or in that particular scene. So there's 20 minutes gone. The next 20 minutes are spent following Kenji and Koyoshi. This happens in 1609 Japan. It was probably my favorite of the three stories told. The no dialogue, and you kind of have to, obviously the film somewhat shows you and tells you what's happening, but the no dialogue really just sells it for me. And despite this story sadly being the short, well, not maybe the shortest one, I want to say, I really enjoyed it, and I wish it was a lot longer. Funny enough, apparently, I looked online, the voice actor who plays Kenji, I believe, was also in Predators, the samurai. I don't remember his name, but which is cool. I like. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything else with that. And then the other story that I felt was really weak, it's during World War II. Torres is the last character we're introduced to. His character was the most annoying and obnoxious, I thought. And he was mainly used for comedic relief. I didn't care for it. It didn't really make me laugh. His story is essentially a dogfight. I don't know, it just wasn't very interesting. Plus, there's a bit that I had trouble believing, and it took me out of the movie. And then sadly, the climax of the film just felt rushed. I'm not going to spoil that either. There's a character decision that happened, and then another character decision, and it just felt kind of pointless. I don't know. I mean, obviously the movie, a sequel is teased, and I guess I'm somewhat looking forward to it, but I don't know. Oh, Wikipedia just told me who this certain character is. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. I guess that's interesting. Yeah, this movie was a bit of a letdown for me. I guess when Badlands comes out, I'll look forward to that, maybe. But Kenji's story is the best, and I wanted a lot more. And in a way, I kind of want another Predator-focused video game in Japan. I think that would be really, really cool. You get stealth elements, and it would just be awesome. But nope, can't have nice things. Anyway, hope you guys did enjoy. The next movie I plan on reviewing might be Life of Chuck next week, because that comes out on the 11th. So, all right, bye.